Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use. For purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, this is from the Apollo series, and this is 2012. Scientology's children imprisoned. Imprisoning children, like most marriages in the Sea Org. When my father moved up the org board, he was coerced into divorcing my mother. I was 15 at the time, and it was a huge loss. Shortly thereafter, I got into trouble and was assigned to the RPF. I was 16 when I was in the RPF, and I had lots of company. See why they want to hide this, you guys? Do you see why everyone works so hard to hide this? There were about 40 minors at the time in the pack, RPF, all of whom were unjustly assigned. But I was a good student. You see, these children don't get any love. It's so sad. I was a good worker, as most minors were. I spent 2 years in the RPF. I was just talking about this yesterday. Many kids spent much more time in the R, as it was called. Yeah, where were the parents then? A key injustice of the RPF, besides being there at all, is that if you're a minor, you have no choice but to do the program. And no free will. You cannot leave the Sea Org, as your parents are in the Sea Org. So this is false imprisonment of children. This is final solution number 2. If you can't kill them when they are a fetus, imprison them when they are a child. I remember one occasion where a young man who worked in the same org as me announced at the dinner table, "I don't like RPFers because they're fuck-ups." 1 month later, he was in the RPF. And 1 month after that, he blew. Kids didn't have the luxury of escaping or blowing. Children toiled doing the same labor as adults. Department of Labor, from 6 a.m. till 5 p.m. And same as adults. Any kind of infraction was immediately punished. And who's inflicting these punishments on the children? This is why, you guys, I'm losing any little ounce of respect for the Scientology adults. And same as adults, any kind of infraction was immediately punished by running laps or doing push-ups. Or worse yet, getting assigned to the RPF. RPF were one slaved in Rat's Alley all day and well into the night. I suddenly found myself there, and I remember being covered with the horrific smell of rotten food slime. And I do mean covered. I thought, what the hell am I doing here? But then again, I had no choice. In the RPF, there is absolutely no time off and no liberties. Read my other article on the RPF in this site. There were no exceptions for children. In fact, as we were smaller, some children were brutalized by some adults. Some children were brutalized by some adults. There was a small group of people in the RPF with their share of psychotic tendencies. At 5 p.m. we had dinner and redemption time, and lights out at 11 p.m. This was tough, but we got some auditing, and I did experience gains from auditing, despite the fact that I needed more rest and food, despite the fact that I did not want to be there, despite the fact that I saw very little of my mom and dad, despite the fact that the RPF IC was a total Nazi, and despite the fact that I had been unjustly assigned to the RPF in the first place, and despite the fact that no child should be forced to do hard labor. The application of actual Scientology gave me some very big wins on the RPF. Those were the last wins I had with Scientology during my career in the Sea Org. However, unbelievably, life would get even worse than my 2 years in the PAC RPF. Like I said, though, unbelievably, the Sea Org would get far worse. At the Int Ranch, kids worked for most of the day. Parents had very little time with their kids. It was mainly hygiene time on Sunday mornings, but kids from ages 4 on up spent their nights in dorms at the ranch. Many kids missed their mothers greatly and were re-stimulated in this environment. Well, their mothers gave them up. It was militaristic in that there were musters, like at Gold, and kids would have to do heavy messed work. That is, I think that's material, ether, space-time. Basically physical work, without a choice. Sea Org children never had a choice to be there at all. This violates the very core of Scientology and the philosophy of self-determinism, as does Flag Order 3905. If your blood isn't running cold by now, consider this. There was an instance when Justin Miscavige and Matt Price accidentally injured a staff member at the ranch, and Miscavige assigned them the condition of child. This was considered far worse than confusion. Goes to show you how he felt about children. In his book, Science of Survival, LRH explained what a low-tone person does to the second dynamic. Second dynamic is family, by the way, you guys. At the tone level of covert hostility, you can expect use of children for sadistic purposes. At the tone level of anger, you can expect brutal treatment of children. At 1.5, we enter the band of brutal treatment of children. Heavy corporal punishment, the forcing of the child into a mold with pain, breaking his dramatizations, upset about his noise or clutter. At 1.1 on the tone scale, there may be 2 reactions to children. There may be an actual and immediate desire for children as a manifestation of sex, but we also may have the use of children for sadistic purposes. And we may find both of those in the same individual, like Wally Hanks. We have a long-term general neglect of children with an occasional sporadic interest in them. We have very little thought for the child's future or the culture in which the child will grow up. LRH, Science of Survival. And there's more. It is notable, as one glances down the column, that an interest in children includes not only in the bearing of the child, but in the child's well-being happiness, mental state, education, and general future. We may have a person on the 1.1 level who seems very anxious to produce a child. Very possibly this person is following an engram. Command to have children. Once the child is born, we may have in this 1.1 bracket an interest in it as a plaything or a curiosity or a toy maybe. For following this, we get general neglect and thoughtlessness about the child and no feeling whatsoever about the child's future or any effort to build one for it. We get careless familial actions, such as promiscuity, which will tear to pieces the family, security upon which the child's future depends. You listen to this rubbish. Along this band, the child is considered a thing, a possession. A half a tone above this, in the anger band, the child is a target for the dramatization which the individual does not dare execute against grown-ups in the environment. A last-ditch effort to be in command of something. Here we have domination of the child with a constant warping of its character. The whole future of the race depends upon its attitude toward children. L. Ron Hubbard, Science of Survival. Call it what it is, human trafficking. In about 1996, the Cadet Org and the Int Ranch were disbanded, and all children were suddenly and ruthlessly sent thousands of miles away to be posted in orgs. Smells like cover-up to me. The point being that hundreds of children were robbed of a childhood, their families, and in most cases, their education. See this? There's that wording again, you guys. You see, robbed of their families? As if this has occurred like without everyone's participation. You know what I mean? I have been making the argument for years. I refuse to accept Miscavige's medieval prohibitions, which redefined a child as criminal act punishable by comev and banishment. Oh, here we're going to go on the Miscavige stuff again. You guys know why. I'd love to hear Tommy Davis, that wicked and braying jackass, trying to hee-haw out some kind of an acceptable truth, design whitewash his boss's felonious behavior. Oh, Miscavige is not the only felonious person there. That place is filled with felonious people. He can't tell the real truth because that is punished in the church. Written by Arthur Doyle. Let me see what this is. Oh, this should be interesting. There's this affidavit of Howard Schumer. He was on the Apollo as well. There's another name, if anyone wants to grab that one. Okay, that's going to be another one that I have to read. So I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.